All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We're back here for another session of our OnTap series. It's going to be a really interesting conversation, something a little bit different than we haven't done on our program before, but something that I have personally a lot of experience on, and also just I think everyone in this world actually has quite a bit of experience on, because we're going to talk about referral marketing. I'm super excited to have Mention Me on here with me today. Something new and exciting. Obviously, there's a couple of familiar faces that I've known for a long time in the industry. So, but for those of you who don't know who I am Josh Grelick. I am the CEO and co-founder of Arctic Leaf. I like being the center of attention. That's why I generally host these things. So long time experience in e-commerce solutions. So Arctic Leaf is an e-commerce agency focusing generally on mid-market to enterprise brands, and we do everything from pretty much top of funnel all the way down to the retention side of the spectrum. So on our call today, I mentioned I have Cassis, right? I did say that right, Ali, right?
Got it.
Perfect. So Ali and I have been longtime friends, known each other for many years in the industry, and I'll let Ali quickly do a quick introduction of who she is, and then we'll continue to go in. We'll talk a little about Ellis, who I don't know a whole lot about, but I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot more about. So.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Josh. I'm super excited to be here and talk today. So as you mentioned, my name's Allie. I am located in Boston. I've been in the e-commerce SaaS space for about 15 years, previously working at Klaviyo and Attentive. And I'm currently the U.S. Partnerships Director with Mention Me, so helping them build out our U.S. partnerships, both agency and tech partners. So really excited to be here. I'm only about 6 months in, so I'm going to turn it over to Ellis, who is much more of the Mention Me expert with his 6-year tenure.
Yeah, about 6 years and 6 months.
Yeah, same thing.
But yeah, excited to be here, guys. Thanks so much for having us on. And Josh, I appreciate, even though you like to be center of attention, I appreciate you at least maybe center of this slide. Like that feels like a big thing. So thank you. So I've been in Mention Me for 6.5 years. I'm US sales director here. So I basically look after our new business efforts in North America, work with a whole bunch of different brands, like big globally recognized brands like Michael Kors and Charlotte Tilbury, but then also some smaller kind of really high growth focused brands like Huel. And I am soon to be moving to Boston. I'm in London right now at 7 p.m. for me, but I'm going to be moving to Boston next Saturday. So that's my fun fact.
Very cool. So as we've already established that this is an OnTap series, excuse me. So you're required to have a beverage. It does not have to be alcoholic, but it's 7 o'clock in the UK, or there you go. So it's 7 o'clock somewhere. So hopefully this conversation gets a little bit more interesting as time goes on over this OnTap series. So Mention Me is actually it's a product and company that's been around for some time. Obviously, Ellis, right? 6 years, pretty well established in the UK, right, in the European market. And you guys are looking to kind of branch into the US market. Do you want to just quickly touch on that really quick?
Yeah, sure. So in EMEA, very much market leaders in what we do, and we've been very successful at it for a number of years, and we work with some huge brands. North America is kind of almost to some extent a new frontier for us. We already have like a couple of hundred of these programs running in the US. So it's not completely new in terms of understanding the customer behaviors, but in terms of as a market, we opened the office in Boston at the beginning of this year. It made sense for us. We've got enough boots on the ground, clients in America for us to have boots on the ground now. So very well established, but just kind of starting our American growth journey, which is exciting.
Very exciting. And you brought in an industry veteran like Ali to take care of partnerships. Allie's great, by the way. She texts me all the time. Why haven't you signed the partner agreement? So here we are. So what are we going to talk about today? I did sign it, so we're good. So what are we going to talk about today? So first of all, it's really going to be really all-encompassing referral marketing, right? How we know about today, what is it? For those of you who don't, we'll give a little bit of a baseline, and then how customer acquisition is actually changing. I mean, there's been a ton of modifications on how you can track attribution, where they're coming from, first-party data, second-party data, third-party data, which we had another OnTap series with one of our other partners to discuss that subject matter as well. Definitely check that out on our blog. You can get the recap. But customer acquisition is changing, right? Where are they coming from? How are they buying? And then how are we making referrals more effective, right? It's a super Really interesting area. Most people do buy from individuals who have referred them to another product. I literally just did it. My CTO referred me to one of those like little portable air conditioners where you pour a cup of water into. Like I'm like he's like, this thing's amazing. It covers my boat. I'm like, I literally went on Amazon and I bought it. Like it was good that Amazon Prime Day was also happening, so that was fantastic. And then we're going to talk about some customer advocacy through data, and then a really cool kind of stat or metric that MentionMe's kind of, I don't want to say patented, but quote unquote branded, is the ECR. I'm gonna let Ellis talk a little more about that in a minute, and then what I like to call is the network effect. And then obviously for me, this is exciting because I do have a strong background in affiliate marketing from my previous days. I actually started a network marketing company or multi-level marketing company several years ago that encompassed a lot of the components that MentionMe does, which was like, oh, wow, I've never actually seen traditional e-commerce start leveraging quote unquote concepts from an industry that is really designed all around referral selling. So with that, I'm going to kind of get right into it. I'm going to ask Ali to talk a little bit about, customer referral marketing as today and how we understand it as of today. So Ali, take it away.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Josh. So as Josh mentioned, customer referral marketing is really when your friends are referring your brand. So today, referral marketing is happening underneath all businesses. Most businesses don't really know how to track it or leverage it. So that's one of the issues today. But I think all brands can recognize that referral is one of the most successful forms of marketing. As you can see from the stats on this slide, people are going to trust their friends and they're going to want to, buy something, especially when you're looking at something where your friend thinks like, oh, that's cool. Or, oh, I'm going to recommend this because I love this brand. Typically, your friends aren't going around saying like, hey, I want this discount code from this, brand I don't love. So really trusted, tried and true form of marketing. But I think the challenge today is that a lot of marketers don't know how to really use it. So they're doing a couple of things. Either they're not actively doing anything, they're just trusting that word of mouth and referrals are happening, but they have no way to track it. There's no effort put behind it. And it's really a complete missed opportunity. Or some might actually be leveraging it, but in a very basic form. So maybe they're using a widget or they're doing it as an add-on to their loyalty program, but they have a very limited scope and they have no way to optimize it or take advantage of the data that we're going to get into in a little bit later in this presentation as well, too. And with this, it's often easy to game the system, and therefore it actually gets grouped a lot into affiliate marketing as opposed to a true referral marketing program. And performance is usually underwhelming and the quality is not good. So you're not bringing in a great customer. And then the last one is, I think that there are some brands out there who are doing it really well, taking advantage of a data-driven approach, and they're actively experimenting with their program, promoting it across different touch points. But generally, I feel like a lot of brands might not know of, how to really take it to the next level, really leverage the data. And they feel like there hasn't been a lot of great updates to the space in recent years. And with customers, with referred customers who are spending about 11% more on their first order, and they have about 5 times more likely to go on and actually introduce your brand onwards, it's a really powerful growth channel that a lot of brands today are overlooking or, again, not leveraging the way that they could be. So as Josh mentioned, and if you want to go on to the next slide we have here.
But just quickly on that,
quickly
just differentiate the two between referral marketing and affiliate marketing. I think that's just the core understanding of what MentionMe is, and just break it down into layman terms.
Yeah, definitely. So customer referral marketing is really when a brand is leveraging their customer base. So the average person that is just in there talking about how much they love a brand. I'm sure everyone has that example. Everyone makes fun of me at MentionMe about my two. I talk about Delta and Noble all the time because I just love them. They're not paying me to do so. I'm not part of their referral marketing scheme. I just love talking about how I think that their products are amazing. And then affiliate marketing is really when you kind of see a little bit more of that paid aspect coming into play. So people, are looking to create a little bit more of a revenue stream behind that, sharing stuff that they might not just genuinely physically love that brand. So I think that's kind of the big differentiator there. I don't know, Ellis, if you want to add on to that.
No, you're good. I'm probably going to add to that later on. So I'll leave it there.
I think the reason I asked that, Ali, was just I think it gives a really strong foundation of understanding the differentiation between referral marketing and affiliate marketing. And then that's a really interesting segue into our next slide or next topic is customer acquisition is changing, right? So being able to understand how you actually acquire that customer, whether it's affiliate or referral, actually makes a huge difference in overall KPIs and metrics. So why don't we just talk a little bit about the customer acquisition, how it's changing? I mean, there's been like tons of changes with cookies and privacy policies, and God, you even need like a PhD in just customer acquisition data. So we're not going to get that detailed, but maybe just talk a little bit about how that's changed.
Yeah. So as you can see from the stat here, customer acquisition cost has increased 60% over the past 5 years. So as Josh mentioned, the demise of cookies, paid ads and paid social are just getting increasingly costly and less effective. And you're really not getting in that same customer anymore. You're not getting in that customer who's going to be a repeat customer. We're seeing a lot of one and dones these days. So that is really why Mention Me is really looking to help brands leverage the power of customer advocacy, because again, like that difference where you're bringing in that customer who is saying like, hey, basically you're acquiring your best customer's best friend. And, I'm telling my friend, hey, I love this brand. You should buy it too. We're friends for a reason. Hopefully we have similar habits, similar things that we love. So you're definitely going to start seeing people who are coming in. And as I mentioned too, people who come through referral are much better customers. They have higher AOV, they have higher LTV. They're also people who are going to kind of create this network effect that we'll talk about too, where they're people who are going to refer and refer onwards.
That makes a lot of sense. Definitely. I don't want to discount paid ads because I still think they're very important, right? Because you do need to bring eyeballs to your brand, right? And ultimately, and it kind of again leads me into the next segue of our next talking point. But just again, if you don't have eyeballs, and this is kind of something that we deal with every day at Arctic Leaf, is like, how do I get more people on my email list, or how do I get more people to talk to or target or put into segments? So yes, referral marketing is fantastic. It's going to be really helpful, but that fits more on the bottom of the funnel than at the top of the funnel. You still need paid ads. You're still going to need all your 3 pillars. You still need a good site design and a good buying journey and all the things that require for a strong e-commerce solution. But now you have the ability to leverage something like Mention Me on the bottom of the funnel, right? So using email referrals, incentivizing base referrals, social media referrals, review referrals, basically they're all referrals, right? But they're just what's the word I'm looking for? They've just kind of been packaged up into a little bit of a different flavor, and kind of just repurposed in a different way. At the end of the day, it's a referral. You're asking a referral, whether it's through email, through an intent option, whether it's social media, whether you're sending a UGC flow or something like that. These are all things that Arctic Leaf can help with. But this is less about Arctic Leaf and more about Mention Me. So I'd like to, hear from Ellis and talking about what is the Mention Me approach, and why would a brand say to myself, well, I got all these other tools. I got Klaviyo, I got, UGC, I got reviews, I got all the stuff, right? Why does someone go and say, I'm going to now leverage Mention Me to ultimately improve my referral marketing?
Yeah, well, the foundation of everything that we do is just making referral a really meaningful acquisition channel to the business. Like that's the start of everything. Like Ali said, there's some brands at the moment who do absolutely nothing around referral. They don't track it at all. They don't optimize it at all. There might be some brands who are doing something, but maybe it's just kind of tucked away in the corner of the website somewhere. It's a bit of an afterthought. It's not really seen as part of the core of their strategy. So the first thing is to change that. Like optimize the referral program, make it a really meaningful acquisition channel, and that involves segmenting customers correctly. So not just one message to every single customer, making sure that we're being intelligent in terms of how we segment them, and that could be based on RFM models. It could be based on our AI product, so we could segment based on propensity to refer. It then comes down to what is the incentive behind it, what's the message behind it. Every brand's customers think differently and they're motivated by different things. There is no one size fits all with referral that works every time across every brand. So you need to go through that test and learn journey and figure it out. Your customers might be more motivated by giving than they are about getting. And so leading with that give message might be more powerful. They might be more motivated by kind of philanthropic stuff rather than actually discount that they can get on the next purchase. We need to experiment with this stuff. That's usually not the case, I'll be honest. But yeah, most people do like a discount. But sometimes, you'd be surprised.
What's amazing with referral marketing is you're adopting the brand, right? You're falling in love with the brand. So, we work with brands all the time that literally do not give discounts ever. They never, ever. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas, holiday shopping, Prime Day, doesn't matter. They'd rather do some kind of BOGO sale or add-ons or whatever, but they never give discounts, right?
Yes. Which is fair enough. This should just feel like an extension of how you would typically, approach your brand. Referral doesn't need to be discount led. We have brands that do really effective kind of gifts with purchase, or, we'll plant a tree for every friend you refer and stuff like this. So it's kind of getting to the bottom of that and understanding what works. Long story short, we'll work very closely with the brand to make sure that happens. You're not left to your own devices. We'll be consultative in terms of helping out with that. But off the back of doing this, you can understand who your most valuable customers are. You'll get a really valuable first-party data metric to understand who are those people who are driving word of mouth, who are those people who are going out and being advocates for the brand. I'm not going to steal Ali's thunder too much because she's going to go into this in a bit more depth, but that is hugely powerful. And that's arguably the biggest piece of value here, is having access to that data. And then you can use that data across the wider business, whether it's changing how you segment customers, whether it's using it to augment the paid media spend. Josh, I think you're totally right to say paid media is crucial. It's not going anywhere. But how can we make it better? How can we make it more efficient, more effective, more cost effective? So that's where the data piece around referral data really will come in. And we'll expand on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, again, once you get all that information in, it's the data. I mean, I think everyone's dealing with the same thing, right? We have been collecting data on our customers for years and years and years, but then how do we actually use this to leverage it in a different way? And that's what's exciting to me is that Mention Me is doing is it's focusing on really those stronger, deeper connections than just, hey, come to my store and here's a 10% coupon and buy. Right. Yep. Very different buying journey. And, it talks about,
sorry, I just want to double down on Ellis saying we definitely believe in paid too. I feel like on mine, I was kind of saying no, just use this, but
I'm just gonna grab that clip, Ali, and put it all over the internet. Ali doesn't want you to do paid media.
No one do paid media. That is not going to end up being a clip. But I think what we were just also saying is think about it a little bit flipped around too. And it's funny because I used to say this at Attentive too about talking about an SMS first approach, and we're just thinking about your email versus SMS, where I think own versus paid, I think everyone goes to paid first. And it's how do I get my paid to work? How do I get my paid to work? Where it's maybe think about going to your owned first, delight these customers, get them coming back for more, make this a sustainable channel, and then use this data to leverage your paid and make that much more strategic, knowing how much his paid has changed. You can't just keep pouring money into paid, expecting it to have a different outcome. So I think that's just kind of the thing.
I love that comment because, own revenue or own platform is your own revenue. You're not renting real estate, right? If you're buying ads on Instagram, Facebook, Meta, all these things, that is rented real estate, right? What happened? What was it? I think it was a few months ago, Facebook was down for a day. People are losing a ton of money because of it.
Yeah.
Right? But then if you have an individual or a brand or a customer or influencer or whoever who has a list, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100,000 people, you're making money every time you send that email. And now you can segment it and then hit it with a referral. It's huge. And it's talking, so, why is that important? We want to talk about effective referrals, right? What is an effective referral, right? What does that mean truly in kind of the affiliate and referral world? Again, we need paid media. We need to get them in. We need to segment them. But effectively, we need to know what they're going to do for us. So, Ellis, maybe you want to tell us a little bit more about what defines an effective referral and how do we track that?
Yeah. So everything we've been talking about, the data is worthless unless it's based on good customer behaviors, right? And actual real referrals. So Ali's a great example. If you look at the numbers here, 83% of customers are willing to refer products and services. 29% actually do. And there's probably even less. Well, there's definitely even less than that 29% that's actually tracked and the brands know about. Some brands might know from survey data that they get a lot of people who advocate for the brand, but they can't actually track much of it. So what we want to do is make sure that that data is based on true referrals. People like Ali who love Delta and love Noble and are willing to go out there and refer the brand. So that's basically, there's kind of a couple of things that solve for that and make that possible. Part of it's the tracking piece and making sure that it's robust and reliable and that it accounts for things like fraud and negative customer behaviors. So, we track based on email address, which is, more secure than tracking based on a cookie or something separate. And then you'd also have fraud prevention controls in place so that you can snuff out suspicious referrals based on IP address, cookie, how many people they're engaging with, and stuff like that. So that kind of solves to the first part about making sure that it's a true referral. And then there's another piece here around removing barriers and making it easy for people to refer. If you've got 29% that do refer your brand, and there's a fraction of those that actually do it through the program in a way that you're able to track, you need to make it simpler for them to be able to refer, because that's the core piece. If you're not capturing that, then you can't do anything with the data. So, that's partly just serving it to the right customer at the right time. It's partly about making the customer experience simple. So, most brands will be familiar with the idea of sharing, enabling their customers to share with friends via a link. Like you send a link maybe through SMS or through social media, a friend clicks on that link, that's how it's tracked. And that's great. Like that absolutely has its place. That's a really effective way of tracking these referrals. But the other piece around that, we have something called name share. It just captures word of mouth. So if I was having a conversation with Ali, I could just say, head to the website. If she gives me a compliment on a pair of sneakers I'm wearing or something, I can say, head to the website, type in my name, I can get you this referral offer. So it just increases the likelihood that you capture these referrals so that you can actually do the interesting stuff with the data that follows.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And then I think you guys are using a bunch of machine learning and AI, right? AI is,
that's right.
Now. You want to just touch on that? Like, how's MentionMe leveraging that, and what does it do to help kind of bring out those referrals and the data? We have all this data now. We actually, right?
Yeah. Well, the flip side of again, in this slide, it says 29% of the customers actually do refer friends, which is great. But then it's also leaves 71% that don't. And for that 71%, if you're just going to continue to hit them with a referral message every single time, regardless of what we know about them, to be honest, that's just going to get annoying over time. Like, I'm not that person who refers. I'm not ready to be a referrer. I'm not necessarily a brand advocate. In which case, we can use AI to predict that upfront. And you can start to run predictive segmentation. If someone is in that 71% camp, let's stop spamming them with referral messages. I mean, ideally, if we're running it well, we shouldn't be spamming them full stop, but you get the point. Let's stop hitting them with a referral message. Let's nurture them. Like if we can turn them into a referrer and advocate in the future with some different content, let's do that. And then the 29% who are ready to refer, great. Let's hit them with a referral message. Let's test it to make sure we're serving them the right message that's going to drive the best conversion. But that's where we're able to leverage AI. We call it propensity to refer. So it's exactly that. If they're likely to refer, great. If they're not, let's serve them with something different.
Yeah, I love that you guys are using AI in a way that's valuable, right? I mean, like, they're not to derail the conversation and make this about an AI conversation. I mean, that's been done many.
There's not many of those happening.
Yeah, exactly, right. But I think it's just important to just to call it out, right? It's like everyone says like AI is going to take everyone's job and this and that. It's like, no, if you actually look at it, here's a really amazing tool that is leveraging AI to help your business ultimately make more money. It is a tool. It is a tool to help you ultimately grow and expand. So, and talking about expanding and growing this is what really kind of got me interested in MentionMe. And I think Ali actually took a video of this at dinner with Chase and I, kind of just going back and forth. Maybe one day hit the internet. But we're talking about this metric that I guess you guys pretty much quote unquote created, called ECR, which is ultimately extended customer revenue, which I thought as soon as I heard it, I got it, because I think my brain kind of understands that philosophy. I think of it as like kind of a network effect, right? Like how deep down the ladder does it go that an individual can be valuable to your brand? But now I'm probably overstepping Ali's slide, so I'm gonna stop talking and I'll let her go. Because this is exciting for me. This is really like.
I took the video. I was so excited that you guys were debating ECR and using our terms, and
it was glorious. We were just going back. It was so You just
I wasn't even talking. I was just letting you guys go. It was amazing. But you guys are probably saying, what the hell is ECR? So basically, mention me, as Ellis mentioned, we've been around for 10 years. So we've collected a lot of customer data over those 10 years. And basically what we've found is that obviously LTV is a super important metric and it's very trackable. And that's how a lot of brands look at their most valuable customers today. But we know that customers are not spending as much as they used to, and markets are tough. So there's a much better way to actually look at who your best customers are beyond what they're just spending. So if you look at individual customer revenue and extended customer revenue, basically the difference here is what an individual actually spends versus ECR is layering both their LTV, so what they've spent, plus this referrals that we were tracking through Mention Me. And what we've actually found over the past 10 years, which when I first heard it, I found a little shocked, but then I thought about my own spending habits and it made sense. But there is no correlation between spend and referral. So people who you would think would be your top spender would be your top referrer. But this is where I always talk about Noble, because I've only have one pair of shoes. I am not a runner. Not really huge into exercise.
Katie Crab about this the other day. So I think I have more shoes than you do, by the way, Ali. So.
I have a lot of running shoes for somebody who's not run. But I love Noble. They're a Boston brand. They have a very different look to them. They probably wouldn't love that I love them because I'm not a CrossFit trainer or a runner, but I do run my errands in them and I find them very, very nice. But I've only bought one pair of shoes. So according to how they look at their data, I'm sure they put me in a very low segment. And we're finding this with a lot of our customers too, like Huel and Puma are actually resegmenting how they talk to their customers based off this data, because they were finding that this, there's no correlation. There's plenty of people who are not their top spenders who are out there advocating for their brand, and they're either sending them thank you messages or maybe, shooting them off something to delight them and surprise them for being a great advocate, not necessarily just being a great spender.
Yeah, no. I mean, first of all, do you call it Noble or Noble, by the way?
I say Noble.
Okay. I thought you said Noble, and then anyways. But it's a really...
I just talk too fast.
It's a really, first of all, that whole brand is extremely fascinating, right? How they came from literally, it was a couple of CrossFitters that ultimately created a community, and that thing has now, they basically are the sponsor for the CrossFit Games, and ultimately, I think, acquired the brand. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure they own it. That was when the previous owner made a comment, and there was a whole fiasco, whatever. And then Noble came in and acquired them. But if you're really interested in talking about thinking about that ECR metric, go look at that brand. It's phenomenal to see how they grew that with just a couple of CrossFitters. Then they added a bunch of other layers and a bunch of other layers and a bunch of other layers, and it just exploded, right? And this happens all the time in network marketing. This is why network marketing exists. So it's just a fascinating example of how referral marketing makes so much sense, and where it's going, and how this network effect can really establish brands very, very quickly with little to no dollars in marketing, right? So on the network effect, and I use this example, I built systems over the years that talk about network effect and overlaps and all of this other kind of stuff. But maybe Ali, in your own words, kind of talk about how Mention Me uses this overall network effect in correlation with ECR and ultimately what you guys are trying to do. First of all, I love that graph. It's because it's never exactly right. You're never going in an exact ladder, right? You're gonna get here's this one person, oh my goodness, they're gonna blow up, right? But you may get this other person who only's got a couple of referrals. So I love the graph that you guys put together to show just kind of how this network effect can work. And it's never just a linear or kind of a very straight line. So maybe just talk a little about the network effect and how Mention Me is leveraging that.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like today too, in this industry, I feel like I'm hearing a lot of buzz on spend time on acquisition or spend time on retention. Retention's more important, acquisition's more important. the reality is you have to do both. You can't fill a leaky bucket. You can't just spend all your time on acquisition. You can't just spend all your time on retention. There needs to be a balance. And that's really why we think that this advocacy first approach is so important. Because if you look at this graph, you'll see that this little dot here, this represents one customer from Matches Fashion, which is one of our UK customers. And the individual spend of this customer was $261. But you can see when you kind of actually look at this data, start to really track this data, this one person expanded into almost $500,000 or almost more than $500,000. And this is what we're really talking about with this network effect. And Josh, you actually touched on it, but basically what we're trying to do is, do two things here. Obviously, you kind of want to see these little dandelion effects, which is when one customer is referring multiple customers. That's amazing. That kind of creates that exponential growth. But really, in the sustainable way, you want to see these chains where one customer refers, one customer refers, one customer. That's really going to show that your brand's doing right by your customers. You're creating customer love, and you're creating this really great sustainable growth through your customers. And what's really amazing too on these stats over here on the left is that, it's like probably beating a dead horse now, but people who come through referral are just really great customers. And then we have all these stats to show like they're 2.4 more likely to repeat purchase. The 46.3% of referrers make more than one purchase compared to 19% of non-referrers. And then again, this network effect, when they come through referral, they're going to create this snowball effect and refer more and more and more. And that's where you're going to get those, little dandelions that you're really looking for here, where people are referring multiple people and they're referring multiple people. And, again, you're just going to see some really great sustainable growth. And I think the other thing too is like once you start tracking this too, what you can actually then even do further with this data is start to talk to some of these customers. Ask them why they're sharing with their friends. What made them love the brand? Why are they sharing it? What are they doing with the product? It'll give you really valuable insight into who your customer advocates are and help you create, again, more sustainable growth by, repeating this process with more and more customers.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And Mention Me is collecting all this data. You've quote unquote patented the ECR metric. You have network effect. I love that you called it a what did you said butterfly effect.
Oh, a dandelion.
The dandelion. So so you have all this stuff now, right? You have information, you have data, you have a visual map of actually being able to see how your customers are referring and where the pockets of the network effect is happening. So what do you do with that data? How do you leverage customer advocacy through all of this data that you've collected? And Ellis, like you've been around 6.6, but 6 years, 6 months, seeing this Mention Me company and brand and service grow and work with some really phenomenal names like Ali mentioned, Puma and Noble and all these other companies, right? Well, maybe not Noble, but no Puma. But like, so now you have, so how are you leveraging this data to find these customer advocacies, right? Or advocates, sorry. My English is not always the best. So
you are drinking, it's fine.
I just get really excited.
Sorry. Could be an Irish coffee.
Adrenaline kicks in and words don't always work all the time.
Yeah, what's in that mug?
That's understandable. I'm going to use the same excuse if I slip up as well. Don't worry. The immediate kind of most obvious thing is just augmenting the referral program so that you drive more of this referral in the future. So we spoke about the propensity to refer piece. Once you've tracked those customer behaviors, you know who the referrers are and the people who display behaviors, which mean they're likely to refer friends. It means that you can then use that to target the people with the right message, and find those advocates and get them to refer. But the people who aren't ready to refer, it means that you can drive greater repeat purchase from them because you can nurture them, and you could nurture them with an incentive to come back and buy again, maybe time limited, drive some urgency around it. You could promote opt-in for marketing so that you can nurture them through your email or your SMS strategy. You could actually serve NPS at this point, so you can sort of capture voice of the customer. So augment the referral program and drive other KPIs. But that advocacy data piece, so kind of uncovering who those advocates are and who's really active from a word of mouth and referral standpoint, you can then use that. Ali touched on it a little bit. You can use that to then reframe how you segment customers. And there's a couple of kind of core, really obvious examples around that. One is reframing who a VIP is. So looking at it through the lens of, okay, not a big spender, maybe not very active in general across multiple metrics, site metrics and everything else, but very active from a word of mouth standpoint. Those people need to become VIPs immediately because they're some of the best customers that you have. You need to retain them at all costs and get them to keep doing more of the same. Another interesting thing there, though, is like it changes your view of who a lapsed customer is as well, because you'll have customers who might not be spending much. They might not have purchased much over the last 3, 6, 12 months, whatever it is, but they've been very active in terms of referral. You don't need to try and win them back. Like you need to just, let them come back when they're ready. They clearly love the brand. Talk to them in a different way, surprise and delight them, continue to nurture that relationship. And then, to the paid media point, again, we keep saying it's not going away, but how can you augment it? Well, you can start to build audiences based on those advocates. You can start to build an audience based on who your referrers are. You can plug that in directly to Meta, to Google. And then when it comes to lookalike modeling, you can do modeling based on your advocates so that we can find more people like that through paid, because ultimately we want as many people of that as possible. So it just means that you're going to lower your CPA through paid media. You're going to improve your return on your ad spend, but arguably more importantly, in terms of long-term sustainable growth, these customers that do come through paid, they're going to be more likely to refer friends in the future. And the longer that happens, the longer it goes on, the less and less reliant you have to be on paid.
I think I just want to slow it down for like a second, because I don't know that people will actually resonate with what you just said, right? What you just said was, we've collected all this data. We know their ECR score. We know their network effect, and we're able to create a lookalike audience to use for future ad buys.
Mm-hmm.
You are literally telling Meta and Google, I only want to quote unquote target these individuals with these types of profile traits, right? And you are literally targeting individuals that can help grow your brand through a non-paid media channel. Wild. That is if you boil that down, like, why is not every brand using Mention Me right now? Like, it's crazy. Like,
especially in like a post iOS 14 world as well, right? Like,
exactly, right.
Yeah.
So you're able to get that data, build a lookalike audience, feed that into your paid channels, and then rinse and repeat. And you're only going to get better with that as time goes on.
Yeah.
Josh, I'm glad you slowed that down, because I think it's one of the coolest things that
I just wanted the sound bites so that you guys can use it for like your marketing.
We're gonna use that clip everywhere.
That's fine. That's okay.
But yeah, we've seen some amazing results. Like I think we saw one brand had a 30% increase in their return on ad spend and 15% decrease in their CPA. So amazing results with that. I think it's one of the
it's just, again, I think a lot of people just kind of bucket referral marketing into this like, oh, let's put it on the shelf because we don't really understand it. We don't know how to track it. We don't know what to do with it. We just know we need to bring eyeballs in, and maybe one day we'll do something with it. So Mention Me, Ellis. Like, I mean, you've been doing sales now. You're coming over to the US. You have 600 plus brands using it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about like Mention Me as a whole. Sell it, right? Let's hear about, let's hear the sales pitch now.
We've sold it. We've sold it. I mean, like, I won't pay too much attention to the numbers because ultimately that's just us bragging. They're there. I think that the thing is to emphasize that this looks different for every brand. Yeah. We obviously have things that we recommend that brands should be doing, not just to optimize the referral program, but also to kind of harness it to make the whole business stronger and more sustainable over time. But it's about understanding, okay, for your brand, what's the situation, what are the objectives, what are the things that you're working on, like how can we make this fit within your strategy so that it just feels like a really organic, natural extension of what you do. And Josh, it kind of comes back to what you said earlier around you've worked with a ton of brands who just don't want to discount by any means. Fine. That's absolutely fine. We still get surprised today by the results of things that we test and kind of what we learn from it. So this is about this is about your brand. How can we incorporate this so that you get all the benefits that we just spoke about, but in a way that feels totally in keeping with your brand and how you talk to customers and how you present yourself in the market? But that's the key thing, I think.
Well, I'm excited to see what you guys do in the US. I think it's an exciting product. It's something that's new and interesting for me, especially because of my backgrounds. It fits into top of funnel. It fits into bottom funnel. So it touches a lot of the life cycles of the entire journey of a buyer. Obviously someone like Arctic Leaf, we would work with any merchant, and they're mention me, consultants, and we build that into their segmentation and understand how we can ultimately drive results and ROI. Right. So if you haven't checked out Mention Me, I definitely encourage you to do so. Really cool opportunity, something different and interesting that isn't really being talked about, but is definitely important to leverage in your cycle, especially as we're dealing with economic challenges. Costs for CPAs are going up. The iOS 14, 15, 16 issues, it feels like every day there's another one. And then definitely want to check that out. It's a really cool product. We're excited about it, and we're just happy to be able to have Mention Me on the OnTap series. So to kind of recap a little bit, right? You are so referral marketing programs establish a relationship with your clients that builds loyalty more than just on the surface level. So you're ultimately increasing your customer base. You want to, customer lifetime value does not necessarily mean high referral rates, right? I may go on a particular brand and purchase a product for $500, but I may never refer your brand to anyone else. So all you've ever made with me is $500. Or I can go on there and buy something for $100 and I refer your brand to 50 of my friends and they each spend $200. Which would you prefer, right? It's the age-old question of when you're dealing with like a startup. It's like, do you want 70% of a $10 million company, or you want 10% of a $100 million company, right? I'll take the 10% of a $100 million company every day, right? So kind of the same kind of philosophy. Effective referrals are not just about growth and acquisition, but it's data. How do we leverage that data? What are we doing with it? You have all the tools behind the scenes. You got your Klaviyo's, you got your ESPs, you got your upsells, cross-sells, referral programs, all that kind of fun stuff. So it all builds and everything in. Segmentation is going to be massive, right? Being able to get that information, and then obviously being able to identify who your advocate or advocates are, and then leveraging that on your media spend and ad buy. It game over. So mic drop, exactly. So Ellis, just take your headset off and just throw it. Flip the table. So I know we're running out of time here. Just quickly, we are going to be putting up the whole OnTap webinar series on our blog. We'll have a recap. We'll actually have the full session up there, so you can definitely check it out. Lots of really, really good information. Definitely encourage you to check out Mention Me, and if you have any questions, you can obviously reach out to Arctic Leaf. Katie, do we have a couple of questions that came in during the registration process that we want to go over?
We have time for one, I think. But this one was really interesting, and I definitely wanted to make sure that Ellis and Allie got an opportunity to touch on it for all attendees. And it's, how do you focus on ROI while creating an impactful referral and loyalty program?
Yeah, so I think the good thing from in terms of the program that we'll establish, the good thing is that the ROI for a marketer to then justify is really black and white, because from a pure new customer acquisition perspective, all of it's tracked, not just in terms of the number of new customers delivered, but also the revenue that's been driven from those new customers. And that piece alone, even if you just look at the first order of the new customers that have been delivered, you'd expect to see a really healthy return on investment, kind of 5x plus. But then you've got all the residual value that comes from incentivizing the referrer, incentivizing their friend to go on and buy. They'll be given something for introducing that friend, which means they're more likely to come back and repeat purchase. You then obviously have the ECR effect and being able to leverage that across your wider strategy. So just that new customer piece, the ROI is really black and white, and it's very easy to see it and kind of, to justify it to the business. But then you have these additional kind of supplementary portions of revenue that just can kind of take it a step further. But hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, just to like also expand on that, I think that data piece is huge, not just seeing the revenue. I think working in a couple of other platforms, you can typically only see into one customer profile at a time. So being able to see this network effect, track this, understand it, I think is very valuable to a brand.
I think we got to create a shirt saying, ask me about ECR, by the way.
I love it.
Well, I just want to say a huge thank you to Ali and Ellis for this. So for just really quickly, some housekeeping items. We do send out a survey. If you send out a survey, you will get an opportunity to win a free month of Mention Me, and then also a complimentary UX audit from Arctic Leaf. These are thousands of dollars in value, by the way, that we're just giving away as an opportunity. So definitely, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your feedback. If there's things that we could be doing better, we want to get a little more meaty, a little more high level. If you have a different subject, a different idea or something like that for the OnTap series, we want to hear about that. But again, so you'll have that in your inbox shortly. But want to say a huge thank you, Ellis. It's 7:00 your time. Go enjoy your evening. Huge thank you for all of your help. Amazing knowledge. Honestly, I feel like we could have talked for hours on this subject matter. And then Ali, always great to see you. Huge thank you for bugging me over and over and over again about Mention Me. And thank you guys for hopping on. And we look forward to continue building a long-term partnership together. So,
thanks so much for having
Thank
us.
you, Josh and team, for having us. And thanks everyone for listening.
Salut, l'chaim, cheers, whatever tickles your fancy. So
Cheers.
thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you.